We've had a lot of Academy Award winners recently, like F. Murray Abraham and Rita Moreno, but very few of those guests can boast of a comedic performance in Mighty Aphrodite like yours. So start us off from the beginning. Where were you in your career when you came to Mighty Aphrodite? What had you been doing up until that point?
I think I had made 5 films before that. I know I had done Quiz Show. I had done Amongst Friends. I had done Quiz Show in Barcelona. I had done a movie called Sweet Nothings, and I think one other film. I had done The Buccaneers for the BBC, the Edith Wharton project, and I got the audition in New York through my agents, and they wouldn't tell me anything about the role, except that she was unfiltered. That was the note, unfiltered. And I got the pages when I got there. They didn't send them to you. You didn't have the sides in advance. You had like 8 minutes in the waiting room to look them over. And it was the "Are you my 3 o'clock" scene. And so when I walked in, I was like, is she a massage therapist? Is she a call girl? And they sort of begrudgingly admitted that she was a call girl. And then I did the audition, and then I went home, and my agent said, well, they said that you were very good, but it's not gonna go any further because it's too far from your natural personality. Because they wanted her to walk in the room. They wanted Linda Ash to walk in the room. And then Barcelona came out, and Woody requested a screening of it in his private screening room, and after seeing it, he said, wait a second, this girl, the one who plays Marta, she has nothing to do with the girl I met last year on Please Don't Drink the Water, because I had auditioned for him the year before. And he said, bring her in again, because I don't recognize this girl. This girl's a Catalan girl. That's not the girl I met last year. So I was actually in England finishing The Buccaneers, and I got the message, and so I memorized the first audition lines that I had, the sides, even though I didn't have them anymore. And I remembered them, and I worked on them, and I made sure that I knew them by heart. And I went shopping in London, and I found a Gautier Jr. dress, which was like black fishnet over like neon yellow bumblebee stripes. And I found like sandals that had like flowers coming out of my toes, and I made my hair really curly and kinky and wore a ton of makeup, and then came to the Dorchester Arms Hotel. They walked in, and I was like, Mr. Allen's room, please. And the reception looked at me like, who is this? I did not look classy. And so they brought me up, and the casting director was there, and Woody was there, and they handed me completely different sides. It was a completely different scene, and my heart sank. I was like, oh no, I knew what I was gonna do. And I was like, don't let this defeat you, Mira. Don't let this defeat you. Like, I'm just talking to myself in my head. And they had this little small antechamber, this little weird little room in the suite. And they said, you can go in there and work on it and take as long as you need. And so I go in there, and I'm in there for like 15 minutes because I want to memorize it to a certain extent, so I'm sort of off book. And they would knock and be like, is everything all right? And I was like, yes, do you need me to come out now? And they were like, no, it's okay, it's okay. And I was like, okay. And my family will tell you I'm known as the squirrel because I store food in my bag. I think I'm like sort of low blood sugar or whatever, so I always have a protein bar or a cookie or something in my bag. And this time I had this weird British protein bar, and I hadn't tried it yet, but I had bought it, and I had, so it's the scene in the Italian restaurant, and she's eating. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna eat this thing while I'm talking. I'm gonna have my mouth full. So I go out there, and we do the scene, and I'm chomping away on it and eating it with my mouth full, and it's disgusting. It tastes like cardboard. It's like the worst thing I've ever eaten, but I'm like going for it. And at the end, he was like, all right, well, that was That was all right. Your instincts were all right. And I wasn't sure if he meant they were just okay or they were all correct.
Yeah.
And he said, you were, yes, you were funny. If we do this, I might have you work on a bit of a voice, because not only is she cheap, but she's stupid. And I was like, okay. And then I was leaving the hotel, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I forgot to show him pictures of me in the blonde wig, because I had done a Lifetime movie called Parallel Lives, and where I played Ben Gazzara's girlfriend, and he was like 17, and I was like 25. I had pictures of me in this little short blonde wig, and I called up to the room, and he was like, yes. And I was like, hi, Mr. Allen, I'm sorry, it's Mira. I just didn't know, maybe she should be blonde. And, well, I don't know, it depends on who plays the other female character, you know, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I have pictures, and he was like, okay, we'll leave them at the reception. I was like, okay. And I go away for a few days, and then I think I was going back to America, actually, having finished everything in London, and I get a call. So I get offered Hackers, the movie Hackers. And then my agents tell their people, well, Mira's just been offered Hackers and it's a conflict. And so then I get offered Mighty Aphrodite, but they won't tell us how many scenes it is or what size of a role it is. It could literally just be the 2 scenes that I've seen, you know, and I have to turn down the lead in Hackers. But it was, you know, it was who it was, and it was like, okay, I'll take it. And then once I took it, then they give you the script, finally. And I'm reading it, and I'm like laughing out loud. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. This is the most amazing role ever. And, you know, thus began this incredible journey. And I was working on The Voice, and I was journaling about The Voice. You know, I was very intense in those days. You know, I had studied first with Bill Esper and then Wynn Handman, who was just the most amazing acting teacher. And I would journal in character and about the character's backstory, but also about like technical aspects like the walk or the voice or the hair or whatever. And I was like, hi. And I spoke to him about it. He said he didn't want California, he didn't want Southern. And I was like, okay, so high, maybe, gravelly, maybe. And I had this friend whose mother spoke like Minnie Mouse. I mean, she literally spoke like that. Hi, Denny. She spoke really high. But it was a very kind of weak voice. And then I was like, high and gravelly. And I found this weird manipulation where I could be in a falsetto, but I could talk low in a falsetto. So this is like, you know, when a soprano sings in the falsetto, but then they're singing low, and it sounds like this, and it has this weird gravel under it, and it makes reading the cereal box funny.
Well, you hit the notes of comedy right away. Were you intimidated at all in playing comedy, or did you have any experience?
I had played against Sam in high school, the Diane Keaton role. I had done that at, you know, on the high school stage, right? But, you know, my dad did not think I was a funny person, because my sister was the funny one in the family. Like at the dinner table, she was the one with the stories and the imitations. We all had this gift for sort of imitating people, like doing their voices, which I found out in other people's homes they didn't have that ability, or they thought it was not right to do. But when we would tell a story of someone talking, we would always do their voice. And Amanda was great at that, but she was also very funny, and I sort of sat back and let her be the funny one. And so when I got Mighty Aphrodite and I told Dad, he said to like the family, Mira, funny? Because I was the serious one. I was the serious, studious brunette, you know, very idealistic, always ready to fight for my cause, you know, have ideological arguments with whomever. I was not like the hilarious person. But I think, weirdly, I think when I'm blonde, I'm able to be lighter hearted. It's weird. Like after I graduated from Harvard, the day I graduated, I went and bleached my dark brown hair blonde, and it took 5 hours, and I went to like platinum blonde because it was this thing that I had inside me that I wanted to be a platinum blonde, like a 50s blonde, but I didn't want my professors to see me because they wouldn't respect me for some reason. But I think it unlocks in me a little bit of gaiety and a kind of joie de vivre that I don't have when I'm brunette. Like the brunette person is sadder. It's true. I mean, watch my brunette roles. Watch Summer of Sam. Like even watch Lamborghini that I just did. With the dark Italian hair, and I could objectively say maybe I look better as a brunette, and maybe it suits me better because I'm Italian. But somehow the blondness brings out the zany and the not so serious.
Yeah. Well, and you, of course, continued with comedy in Romeo and Michelle, which you'll talk about tomorrow. But now you're still doing comedy today. I mean, you had a show on Stars, Shining Veil. What was that like? Expressing those comedic chops on television.
Oh, that was delightful. I mean, it was so much fun. I can't even tell you. I mean, I had done a few little TV things. For years I eschewed television because there was such a barrier between film actors and television actors, and now that barrier is completely blown up. Now everybody does everything. And actually the biggest stars kind of come from television and become, But, so I had done some Modern Family stuff. I had done Lady Dynamite. And then I was offered this amazing role as Rosemary, the friendly ghost, in the basement of Courtney Cox's Connecticut mansion, haunted mansion. And it was basically an homage to The Shining. And I was basically like the bartender, but, in The Shining in the basement. But I'm sort of the whole story. There's no other haunting. Like I'm the sort of, I don't know, she's sort of a demon, but she's also like a real person. Like sometimes you're seeing the real person, and sometimes you're seeing the demon that took over the real person. But she's sort of daft. She has these delusions of grandeur. She was a 50s housewife with a miserable life, and then she dreams of being sort of a siren, and she has all these forced etiquette things, and let's have a martini, and she's kind of fabulous and tragic and evil, and she was so much fun to play. And Courtney is like the best dance partner. I mean, she's amazing. Her timing, her deadpan, her simplicity is just like bar none, like incredible. And then season 2, Jeff Astroff, our showrunner, who used to be a writer on Friends as well, and Sharon Horgan, he was like, because Sharon is the co-creator who did, what's it called, Bad Sisters and Catastrophe. She's an amazing creative force. But Jeff was really the hands-on showrunner. He was like, I'm gonna give you a big challenge this season. I'm gonna have you play 3 roles at once. So I got to play Rosemary, and then I got to play this 70s hippie lady who she's sort of this earth mama, but she's really based as an homage to Minnie Castevet on Rosemary's Baby, because the second season is like an homage to Rosemary's Baby, because Courtney gets pregnant, largely due to my character's machinations. And she's not a ghost, she's real, but she's sort of a member of a coven. But she's very weird. The things she talks about are so cringe. But she's also kind of lovable, and she's obsessed with Courtney's character. She just wants to be her best friend forever. And she's brunette. And she's got a hideous giant wig, but she was super fun. Her name is Ruth, and I was like, I am not playing an old woman, Jeff. Like he was like, it's Ruth Gordon. I'm like, I'm not playing like 80. I'm sorry. We're gonna make her like my age. And then I got to play a 19th century Welsh investigative journalist who goes undercover in an insane asylum to expose its ills to women, the Shining Veil home for hysterical women. and then she goes insane a little bit in it and becomes homicidal because of the abuse. But she's like a manic Mary Poppins. Like there's this, so, and she's got red hair and green eyes. So I was doing some episodes, I was doing all 3 in one. And it was so much fun, but it was crazy. I mean, it was crazy. So I love comedy. It's my favorite genre by far. So check it out. You can see it on Amazon Prime or Apple TV. It's no longer on Stars, but you can rent it on those platforms.
And is there still a chance for a 3rd season?
Only if it gets sold to like a Netflix or a Hulu, and then it picks up steam like Suits did or something like that. Yeah.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
So when it comes to comedy, just let's stay on comedy for a little bit. You know, your Academy Award performance, winning performance, is one of the few I think that have been recognized by the Academy for comedy performances. I mean, your win came just a few years after Marissa Tomei won for My Cousin Vinny. Do you think comedy performances get enough love from the Academy when it comes time to giving out Oscar statuettes?
You know, I mean, the thing is, people think about the Academy as though it's like this institution that does things en masse. Actually, I'm an Academy voter, like other actors are Academy voters, cinematographers are Academy voters. It's just whatever people have seen and decide they love and vote for. So I don't think the Academy has decided, because it's literally 3,000 people voting in the final round.
Right.
You know, so, and there is an older contingency to some of the membership, and maybe they don't respect comedy as much, but I was very delighted last year when the Academy Instagram account actually did a Romeo and Michelle post. I was like, what? I'm like, you guys like this movie? Oh yeah, this is a classic. I was like, oh, okay. I was so excited, you know? So, yeah.
Well, it's, you know, there's the old saying, I think Mel Brooks said that dying is easy, comedy is hard. And I just feel like, you know, comedy as a disciplinary, you know, performance, it's really difficult. It's not as easy as it looks. So congratulations on beating the odds. And speaking of odds, when you were nominated for this, what did you think your odds of winning were?
Oh, I didn't, because I think I was the youngest one in the pool, although maybe Kate Winslet was younger. I don't know, I think we're about the same age. But I just thought, there's no way I'm gonna win. I'm just so honored to be nominated, and I'm just gonna prepare my face to look happy for whoever wins.
Yeah.
You know, because how they're always like focusing on people, and it always looks so bad when somebody looks angry when they didn't win, you know? So I was just, you know, I was so excited just to have been on this whole magic carpet ride, and I was just, you know, grateful to be nominated. Although, the night before, I had a dream that I should write an acceptance speech. So as I did my hair and makeup, I jotted down some things on an index card. And then, thank God I did that, because then I had an idea of what to say, and it became sort of an iconic moment, because I said, you know, when you know, first I said a bunch of things, but the thing that people remember is when I said, when you give me this, you're really honoring my father, Paul Sorvino, who taught me everything I know about acting. And I mean, honestly, I feel bad because I didn't thank Glenn Hanman in the speech, and I should have.
Yeah.
But as a child, Dad gave me my first and best acting instruction from the age of 8 through 17. Like every single time I had to do a school play, he worked with me on my technique, on my reality, my inner reality. Like, you know, he's very Stanislavski based. Everything was acting truthfully under imaginary circumstances. He told us a story about the great Sarah Bernhardt, who said, you know, that somebody came backstage after a performance and asked her, why was she upset? It was such a great performance. And she said, tonight I broke a law within myself. And so for my dad, it was always, it had to be truthful, you know, and you know, the British sometimes feel that if you cry, the audience won't. Dad was like, you know, humans have a built-in BS detector, and instinctively, if somebody is suffering, if somebody's crying, somebody's really feeling something on screen, you're gonna have this empathy for them, and you're gonna respond to it as real, organic human behavior. And so I remember the day he taught me how to cry. Like I was like 10, and I had to go upstairs in the middle of the stairway. There was like, you know, the landing in the middle of the up and down, and I had to think about something that was very, very sad to me and not come down until I was bawling and then do the scene. And, you know, so my childhood was a little weird, you know, just like, you know, other parents would come to their kids' performances and they would be like, honey, that was great, it was so wonderful. And my dad would be like, honey, that was wonderful. I just have 2 notes. And then he would sit me down backstage in the area where the students did their hair and makeup at Dwight Englewood School for 2 hours and break down the entire performance, like scene by scene, line by line. Don't exhale after the first moment of your line. Don't go, because in that moment you are killing your instinct. A thinking actor is a stinking actor, and you're not going with your organic moment. You were replacing it with an intellectual choice. And so these were the kinds of notes 16-year-old Mira got for the Prime of Vistine Brody, or Playing Against Sam, or She Stoops to Conquer, and other kids were getting like roses from their family. But you know what? It taught me to be the actor that I am. And he gave me that fierce commitment to honesty. And he used to say, the day that I use the glycerin tears is the day I walk out of the business. And so I can never use artificial tears. It's anathema to me. Like makeup artists would be like, I've got the camphor blower here if you'd like it. And I was like, no, I cry or I don't cry. I do it from the inside. I cannot use your tears. I will break a law within myself, and I will offend my father. And but now I feel like I've burned these neural pathways to sadness and crying and deep emotions. In the beginning of my career, I worried about repeatability, because in film, sometimes you've got to do the same moment 30, 40 times from different angles, different sizes, But now, if I have to be broken, I can break myself for 2 days straight. And it's tough. It's like bad for your psyche, but it's good for your performance.
Well, you can see real tears on the YouTube clip of her acceptance speech when it cuts to Paul Sorvino in the audience.
He was never, ever nominated.
Yeah, I know.
So that's what, he didn't expect me to sort of pass the baton back to him.
Yeah.
He had promised that he wasn't going to cry because he had cried at the Golden Globes. He said, I won't cry. I won't steal your thunder, Mira. But then I handed it to him on a silver platter. I'm like, go ahead and cry now. Here it is. This is for you. Because I did feel like he should be nominated. Like, why is it me, after my seventh film performance, I get a nomination? And his whole life he'd been delivering incredible moments.
Performance. I mean, there's the 1981 film Reds that he was in, and then the film version of that championship season. But most of course, 1990. I mean, I can't think of Cutting Garlic without thinking of your father. And Goodfellas, of course.
Yeah. And everybody else was nominated but him for that. Yeah.
That's such a shame. Well, thank goodness for Paul Sorvino and for teaching you. I just want to close that. Your father seems to have instilled in you, an importance of character and integrity in an industry full of people that lack both. And I mean, you have been adversely affected by people such as that. And it seems to me that might just be the most valuable lesson that your dad taught you. Would you agree with that?
He used to say, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and own every part of yourself. Like, you have to be okay with who you are and listen to your inner voice. And that is the most important part. And then my mom was also a very moral person, is still a very moral person. She has a real love of social justice, volunteerism. She was very religious. My dad was not. So a lot of my faith side of my life comes from my mom. A lot of my social justice side with the human trafficking work and even the Me Too movement stuff is very influenced by my mom. So it's a combination of the two of them, but I'm so grateful for both of them and their moral cores and their strength and their integrity.
Very, very nicely said. Very nicely said. Well, in closing, I'll just ask you this. Have you seen Mighty Aphrodite recently?
I don't know when the last time I saw it was. I feel like it could be over 2 decades. And my son Holden is going to watch it tonight. And I remember at the premiere in New York, I had to cover my mom's ears a few times because she's like a fundamentalist Christian. I was like, okay, she can't hear the blowjob lines. She can't. But honestly, it's such an endearing character, and I'm really proud of it. So I'm really interested to see it now after all these years have passed.
That's wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, remember tomorrow at 3:30 for Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. Mira Sorvino will be back. But until then, let's give her a big hand, ladies and gentlemen.